I'm Charles McCain. The book I'm going to review now is called In Which They Served, the Royal Navy Officer Experience in the Second World War. What makes this book worth reading is one, nobody has really written a book like this. Certainly, I give it 4 stars, but what makes it worth reading is this. The Royal Navy was, it's hard to understand now the prestige that the Royal Navy had in Great Britain at that time. I mean, the Royal Navy had been the most prestigious institution in Great Britain, in England, in the British Empire for centuries, and was always referred to as the senior service because, you know, with Great Britain being an island, obviously having a navy was pretty important. In World War II, they had to go from a regular, a navy that had about 130,000 officers and men in it to one that was, you know, much, much, much bigger. And they had to, for the first time, recruit a whole series of people to be officers. And it had been traditional that, of course, officers were gentlemen. And that is, they came from a well-to-do background. They, you know, knew how to behave in the mess, whatever that was. And the way in which they integrated all and trained all these new men to be officers is quite fascinating. And the debates that went on between, well, can we take men, what they called the lower deck, the enlisted men, and make them officers? And they were convinced actually they couldn't do that because the cultural divide was so intense. And, you know, in Great Britain it was. And so they didn't do much of that. What they did find they could do was to take people who were well educated, even if they knew nothing about the Navy or from just a middle class background, and make quite competent officers out of them. And they did, and that's one of the reasons they won the war. But it's very much a social history of the Royal Navy in World War II, as well as giving the details of how these men were trained. And if you really are interested in World War II, particularly the Royal Navy, which to me is one of the most fascinating services in World War II, the book is quite worth reading. Here again, 4 stars, because it's a little rah-rah in the sense of, oh, you know, everything was pretty good and nothing really was bad, and that's just not true. But I give it 4 stars, worth the read, in which they served the Royal Navy officer experience in the Second World War.